Well, hello everyone, I'm Postmaster Radio, and it's time to bring on the funny. You're listening to Ujokes Weekly, the official podcast highlighting Jonathan Mangum's virtual comedy show Ujokes, where comedians battle it out for the best joke, plus you guys and gals on YouTube and Facebook compete as well. It's literally comedy gold at your fingertips. And as usual, what a great batch of Ujokes shows last week. One reality TV edition with Reilly and Brendan Villegas. Plus, on another exciting show, Sean Masteron versus Julie Larson, and a couple of great games along the way throughout the week. Power Rangers Sheep Edition on Name the Movie, knowing you're a virgin from a DNA test. Plus, for Sean Masteron, it's one small step for man. But what's the giant leap for, you might be wondering. Details coming up, but first, if you missed last week's Ujokes podcast, then be sure to catch up now, because, well, what else are you going to do if you need to catch up on the shows from the week before? You'll find a link to the podcast in the description, and don't forget to keep listening after the top 5 countdown for more Ujokes highlights to come via the Ujokes Awards and Ujokes Extras. And with that being said, let's get going. We'll begin with the top 5 countdown, my 5 favorite moments of the week from Ujokes. And the 5th spot is going to go to Rachel Reilly. Good old Rachel. She begins this countdown with a not too shabby joke, if I'm being honest, during a game of Super Villain. And in this game, based on the picture shown, Rachel had to come up with the best and perhaps funniest, because, well, hello, jokes, Ujokes, the best supervillain name that she had in that fabulously funny head of hers. And this was the joke Rachel had for the picture of what I can only describe as a two-headed bluegrass singer. And with regards to Rachel's joke, emphasis on bluegrass.
So it's a double-headed snake in the bluegrass. I think it's Evil Ban Jovi.
Evil Ban Jovi! All right. Snake in the bluegrass and Ban Jovi.
Yeah, not a bad joke from Rachel, if you ask me. But now Sean Masteron is in the spotlight for spot number 4 on the countdown. This is for a game of Finish the Quote. Now, you all know the famous quote, one small step for man, one giant leap for ... And the point of the game is, of course, to finish the quote. But in this case, don't finish it with for mankind. Well, unless if you did what I did, which is for Mangum-kind, haha. Nah, but as long as you don't finish the quote with what it really is, just finish it with the funniest thing that you possibly could. Sean Masteron did, and that is how he won the game of Finish the Quote, at least per the audience vote.
One small step for man, one giant leap for the remote.
Oh, Sean. Oh, yes.
They're really laughing. They're a good audience.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that one. Alright, now back to Rachel and Brendan's show for the 3rd spot on the countdown. But this particular joke does not go to Rachel, neither Brendan. No. It goes to you guys on the YouTube chat. The audience, as you know, every now and then has a really fantastic joke. And such is the case for Mr. Coaster 1, who chimed in on the YouTube chat for the picture of a bunch of colored sheep in a game of Name the Movie, Power Rangers Sheep Edition. I mean, that's not bad or anything. And I promise you, I will not do any more sheep buying for the remainder of the podcast. So you can at least be reassured by that statement. But seriously, Mr. Coaster won, congrats. And I would like to add that joke also won the Name the Movie game. Pretty fantastic. Kind of wish I had come up with that myself. But yeah, anyway, bravo, Mr. Coaster won. The 2nd spot on the countdown is going to go to the sensational Brendan. We already talked about Finish the Quote, but now it's time for Finish the Lyric. Same rules apply, except it's a song lyric, not a quote. In this case, this is the lyric. I just took a DNA test. Turns out and then, well, again, you gotta finish the rest of the thing. I'm not so sure if Brendan had Madonna on his mind when doing this joke. I mean, obviously, he probably did, by the way it turned out. And when you think about it, it's kind of like an interesting mix of 2 songs between Madonna and whoever the hell had that song with I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm whatever. But anyway, this is Brendan's joke.
I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm Like a virgin.
We all know that's not true.
Sadly, Brendan's joke did not win the game, and I kind of thought it would, to be honest, but no. Someone else had the winning joke for that game. We'll get back to that, though, for Ujokes Extras. But right now, this sometimes happens every now and then. You know how there's one game where sometimes the jokes from both the comedians and the winning pick from the audience are so good that, realistically speaking, you actually can't pick which one is the best joke by far. Well, that's the case for Sean and Julie's Ujokes episode at spot number 1 on the countdown, a game of Inspirational poster. Based on the picture of a woman on top of a runaway clock, the comedians plus you guys and gals on YouTube and Facebook had to come up with a possible inspirational saying that might be on a poster with that kind of a damn picture. But anyway, so what exactly were these jokes? I'm sure you're asking. Well, ask and ye shall be answered is not the real saying, but you know what I mean. The winning audience pick, Cassie P on the YouTube chat, it's that time of the month. Now, that was a good joke and all, but Mr. Sean Masterson had a pretty good joke as well.
I think it should say, you don't screw time. Time screws you.
Yeah.
That makes me cry.
That is deep.
And then finally we get to Julie Larson. And I say finally, not only because, well, you know, the countdown, but also because in her and Sean's show, this was the only game in which she got an audience voted win. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But congrats to Julie for getting, even if it was only one win, a win nonetheless.
If the clock is a rockin', don't bother knocking.
Yeah. If the clock's a rockin', don't bother knocking.
It's 3:25 somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Hashtag justice for Julie Larson is what we'll call that. So a great game of Inspirational poster. That was also the last game from Sean and Julie's show as well. So hey. And now we're going to move on to the Ujokes Awards, because that's it for the top 5 countdown, but there is still plenty more to discuss. Am I right? Oh, and in case you're new, you don't know what the Ujokes Awards is, basically think of it as an Oscars version of an award show for a virtual comedy show, if that helps. The first award of the night, Comedian of the Week. Bit of a tough call, to be honest. I have to sadly say that Julie Larson does not win this award, because if you ask me, it seemed like Julie was very unprepared. Don't get me wrong, she did. You have to admit, persistence was very key for her, and trying to think about these jokes just to, not muck it up. So, consolation points for Julie Larson, but I'm going to give it to Brendan Viegas. Brendan for the Madonna joke and finish the lyric. I do love Madonna's Like a Virgin, so you know what, hey, maybe that kind of had a factor in it. Meanwhile, though, Game of the Week, remember that clock pick for Inspirational poster? All 3 jokes from that game were solid. That's why it's going to be the Game of the Week. Next up, another award that did not take very long to determine, the Audience Award for the best joke from you guys and gals on YouTube and Facebook. Once again, shout out to Mr. Coaster 1. Remember his Power Rangers sheep joke from Name the Movie? That is the winner. And then, I don't know what it is about Jonathan's intro to Sean and Julie's episode with the whole OCD madness and the tasting and the licking of the light switches, but for some reason that portion of, the intro for that one episode of Ujokes, it is the winner for the last award of the night, the Mangum Moment. The award that's all about the sensational Jonathan Mangum. I can't not have an award in honor of the funny Jonathan Mangum, can't I? Of course I have to. It's a given. Anyway, so that's it for the Ujokes Awards, but we're not done with the podcast just yet, no siree. Because now it's time for Ujokes Extras. A couple of extra bits that come so close to making the countdown, but do not. And going back to Julie Larson, once again, I kind of feel like this extra bit is adding on to the pity points that she kind of racked up this week, aside from her joke on Inspirational poster. But nonetheless, she did have a pretty good one. Not the winning one, sure, but a pretty good joke for Show of Bands. This is a game, by the way, that hasn't been played in a while. But based on the pick shown, Julie had to come up with, and maybe she got the rules confused, whether it be the band name or the album cover, for the picture of a macaw on a tree branch that's sticking out of the toilet, and then behind the toilet is a guy with a dunce cap and a black robe. That's not even an exaggeration of the pic, by the way. That's literally what it showed. But anyway, poor, sweet, innocent Julie trying to come up with a good joke for that pic. And once again, gotta give her some points for, being persistent and just, being able to come up with a decent joke for that somewhat monstrosity of a pic.
It's such a sweet, it gives me a very sweet feeling. I'm going to say, Christmas in New York City 2050.
The name of the band is Christmas in New York City 2050. I like it.
It's you want the name of the band?
Well, that was the name of the album or the song?
That's the name of the album.
Oh, okay.
And the name of the band is, it's just the one chick who's left.
Yeah.
And her bird, Dixie.
Oh, it's Dixie and Chick.
It just gets more fun.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But again, props, Julie, because that was not mediocre, not the best, but not too shabby, honestly. This next Ujokes Extra does not go to a comedian, surprisingly, but it goes to Jonathan's producer, Josh. And I do not know if I put this joke in there purely because he is technically not a comedian and rather the producer of the show. Maybe part of me is still jealous that, he had that joke in his mind, while myself and probably the rest of you guys on YouTube and Facebook did not. But Josh had a good joke for the happy hour game at the end of Rachel and Brendan's show for the pic. Maybe you remember this pic for the shark with the beer glass in his hand, a full glass of beer.
I would call this a Jaws-mopolitan. Oh! Good night, everybody.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, Josh.
Very punny.
Josh, go over to the cookie bowl and get yourself a big one, okay, buddy?
But again, still jealous. Josh, very. And that being said, that is a damn good joke. So, yeah, you know what? Maybe Josh needs to be on Ujokes. I know of course, he is the producer for the show. But wouldn't it be interesting, and Jonathan, I hope you're listening to this, because maybe if one week somehow comedians are a no-show, maybe there could be an episode with Jonathan versus Josh and see who's the funnier Ujokes staff member in the, there's probably only the two staff members of Ujokes, Jonathan and Josh, or maybe his wife Leah, depending on who is the technical person behind anyway, I'm sure you get the idea. Jonathan versus Josh, that'd be a potential Ujokes episode, honestly. I could be the only one thinking that, but still. And before I get too far off track, the last of our Ujokes extras, remember that finished the lyric game with Brendan's Like a Virgin for I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm, yada yada. Shout out to Tom Garnes on Facebook, who completed that joke with a callback, going back to the sheep from Name the Movie, so nice little callback. I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm actually a spray-painted sheep. I mean, not one of my favorite jokes from the night, to be honest, but hey, it was definitely an amazing callback, so bravo, Tom. Okay, so that's it for this week's Ujokes podcast, but before we wrap it up, just one more little note. As I'm sure you know already, especially if you watched the show, there is another new episode of Ujokes coming up tomorrow night, and as per usual, same deal with Friday. If you are able to play live, that is 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, then you need to visit the Ujokes YouTube channel, link to that in the description, or Facebook Live if you want to play along during the actual show. And of course, for those of you listeners of the Ujokes podcast, until next time, make sure to stay connected with me on Twitter and Instagram at Postmaster Radio. Don't forget to check out the Ujokes podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Spreaker. All of the account links are in the description. And, well, I guess enjoy the next Ujokes show tomorrow night. Till then, well, bye for now. See ya!